General quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
Broadcasting live on WNN 1470 AM, 95.3 FM, iHeartRadio, and the World Wide Web. This is Make America Think Again with your Google Blacklisted host, Tom Trento.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
All right, let's get this lion, dog face, pony, dancing horse show on the road. And we got today, on today's show, ladies and gentlemen, we got Bernie. Bernie having a stroke. We got Bernie having a stroke. Laura is looming large. You're not going to believe this. We have a new way backward. We got Roger the Stone is getting crushed. Rashida throwing the Jews out of her meeting. What a show we got for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Trento, your host, WNN 1470.
We got Bernie burning down a house.
And well, in a little bit. And if you're on the FM side, it's 95.3. 95.3 on your dial. If it's on the Reagan AM side, it's 1470 on the. Some people don't like when I do a little theatrics like that, but that's okay. I'm going to get text from them. This is edutainment. You'd go nuts. You would go nuts if we didn't have a little levity this evening. I'm speaking, in fact, this evening in Englewood, Florida, a little bit south of Sarasota. And I'm going to do, guys, Midwest Dick and J. Mark, I'm going to have a little word association for the audience.
Okay.
I'm going to tell the audience, I can do it right now with you guys as we start our show. If I say one or two words, you got to tell me immediately what comes into your mind.
Communist.
You first. You first, J. Mark.
Jihad. Oh, I'm sorry.
I know where your mind is. All right, we're going to go with J. Mark first on our word association game here at 11:05 in the morning on WNN 1470. I'm going to do this tonight.
Marxism.
Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Easy.
Unelectable.
Easy. Unelectable, okay. Ready for you, Midwest Dick? Here we go. Kamala Harris. Who? That's good. All right. How about...
Is this me?
As is you, Andrew Wang.
Free money!
Are we ready? No, we'll do that a little later. We'll do the free money a little later with Bernie.
The image comes to me, the Saturday Night Live skit.
I know. Speaking of images, this was from, I went to the supermarket Saturday, and this was from Saturday's paper regarding what happened Friday night. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. Daily
GOP
News.
father.
It says it's written in The Godfather with the strings. It's Trump with his best Godfather pose.
That's pretty cute.
It's instead of God, it's GOP, the GOP father, and it says Don, right? Takes care of family business in a Friday night massacre.
Cool.
Unbelievable.
That's clever, though. That's
well,
clever.
now there's, what is it, Midwest, 70 other national security hanger-ons that are getting a hook, from what I understand. 80?
About damn time. It's about damn time.
You know, I've been a proponent for a long time. I ran in 1994 one of Newt Gingrich's Contract with America congressional races out of California. I lived in Colorado, but I went to, where was I in 84? Yeah, I lived in Colorado. No, I was in Florida, but I traveled to California. I was someplace. And California 3, Northern California, ran a race for him. And I was a proponent back then of taking a year off. You're in for a year, and then you're off for a year. Everybody goes back and goes somewhere. We have a skeleton crew, but we don't need to write new laws every day. Why do we have to write new laws every day? You got a skeleton crew if there's like some emergency where, a bridge fell down and we have to have something to put a new bridge up. But to sit there and make believe they're actually doing a job every single day, writing laws that the country has to have is insane.
Yes.
So get rid. You can thin out this federal government like you can't believe, and hopefully the Don here can get that done.
What would the media do without having all these guys get their 3 minutes of fame every day? The Senate, the House.
It's become a cottage industry. The federal bloated government.
I like the Florida and Texas. They don't need to be in session all year.
That's right. Florida's what, 4 months?
4 months. You get
And
everything that you need to get done in 4
I think
months. Go back
Texas
home.
takes a year off or something.
Yeah. It's like they don't need. Why do you need more laws? More laws mean more regulations. It's invariably bad for you. Okay.
But the problem with that, it's like having a bar full of alcoholics voting to close the bar, right?
Well,
Hey, let's close the bar.
The other problem is we're not really enforcing the laws. Many of the laws are
Right.
not being enforced consistently. We could take a year off and practice enforcement.
And all the laws that be written right now are like giving away more money. It's like, okay, how can I give away more money?
Well,
You
the speaking of laws, we're going to have a new law that's in process. It's got a snowball's chance in hell, as they say, but it's indicative of where this country is going. The new way forward. We're gonna tell you about that in a little bit. But first, we got to go to New Hampshire. I mean, New Hampshire's a blast. I was just doing very in-depth research in my office. Watching CNN, and Pocahontas comes by, and Jim Sciutto, I think, was the one of the commentators, on-air hosts, and she comes walking up to a Elizabeth Warren crowd in front of one of the polling places, and she walks up like by herself. There's 7 people holding signs, and he goes, "Not a very large crowd there, is there?" Right? Elizabeth Warren had 7 people as the crowd for her at a polling place.
I know.
And even he said, that's ridiculous. It's
right.
kind of ridiculous.
And
So,
Biden had like 100.
who did?
Biden
Biden
had
had 100 people.
104 actually.
Wow. Were they lion
No, they bust
dog-faced pony soldiers?
Well, they might have been because half of them were bussed in.
Can you, during the course of this show, J. Mark, you put a little meme together that illustrates beautifully lying dog-faced pony soldiers, and you've offered Joe Biden a new campaign graphic. Somewhere during the course of the show, you can show it, or you can put it in later for our viewing audience. But I want you to explain.
I'll put it in right now, Tom.
Okay, let's put it in right now.
As you can
all right,
see.
we got Joe Biden here on the left in a goofy kind of thumbs-up pose. That's cool. Then you got the first emoji you have, and J. Mark in this meme tells the whole story with 4 simple emojis. The first one, I had to look at it. It's got a long wooden nose, Midwest dick. What do you think that would stand for?
Always telling the truth.
Pinocchio.
All right, so the first emoji stands for lion. We got that. Then you have a little cute puppy dog. What's that stand for, J. Mark?
Well, dog.
Okay,
dog.
so lion,
Dog.
dog-faced, because you show the face of the
Right,
dog.
yeah.
Then you have, what's that next thing, Midwest, that's there?
It's a little teeny horse. I think they call it a pony.
Okay, so we got a lion, dog-faced, pony, and the last thing?
Is a soldier saluting.
A soldier emoji.
Right.
There it is. Joe Biden, no royalties, no nothing.
You can have it.
All yours, buddy. You can have it. And you can have it for the next week
Right.
because your campaign is done
You're
after
done
next
after
week,
that.
okay?
Had to get it that quick.
Now, nobody knew back in August 25th to be exact, 2019, when Donald Trump started shaking down Zelensky and, threatening his life and everything else. Oh, no, wait, that was Roger Stone. Nobody, and we're going to get to Stone being crushed in a little bit. Nobody knew about, on August 25th, that just a few months later, Joe Biden would be a non-entity. Donald didn't even have to deal with Joe Biden. He just could have said, investigate the corruption, whatever, wherever it leads, But I'm glad it happened the way it did because here's why right here. There's a resurgence. The polls, and the polls are tricky, but guess how many people were, guess how many Democrats last night were at President Trump's rally in the middle. You got to love this guy. What? They're having a primary in New Hampshire? Get the plane.
Yeah,
Fire up the plane. Let's go. Come on. Let me bust
He
up
just
their
crushes
party.
them.
That's what we do here. We used to say, "Oh, the Muslims are having a Muslim day somewhere. Let's go, man.
You're right.
We're inviting ourselves." So he goes, and how large was the crowd? I didn't see how large.
5 times more than all the Democrat crowds put together.
All right, so it's tens of thousands of people.
Right.
But somebody did a quick exit poll. 25% of the people attending Donald Trump's rally in the first primary were Democrats.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
No, it just, you know what? Here, I have an idea, Tom.
What's that?
I think just for a challenge, Donald Trump should go run as a Democrat presidential candidate and see if he could win.
You know, that would be, imagine that, running on both sides of the ticket. You got the
No. Hey, if he wins the Democrat side, then he wins automatically because he's a Republican nominee and the Democrat nominee. He can't lose. So
He's got it covered. He's got it covered.
I think he has a good shot of winning the
I
Democrat
don't know.
primary.
Bernie is going to argue with you because Bernie Sanders had a stroke last night. And
Yes, he did.
What did he have? A stroke? He had the strokes, actually, not a stroke, the strokes. And Bernie drew 7,500 people in an auditorium in New Hampshire.
That's about what the strokes bring.
Amazing. I mean, the banners last night, the banners on CNN were massive crowd greets Bernie. And I'm going, well, massive is how many? 7,500 people. Okay.
That is massive for Bernie.
For Bernie. I'm saying, how the heck did that guy draw 7,500 people? Then all you do is a little research, and basically there was a concert by none other than, look, if you recently had a heart attack, I don't know if you want to have The Strokes as the band that's the opening act for you. He had a kind of a punk rock band.
Pretty good, actually.
Yeah, The Strokes. They had a concert, and not only was it a concert, they're releasing their new album.
Right.
So every college student in the area came there, and then Bernie pops up like, "Hi, everybody," and he goes on his old man rant.
But was the concert free? Was it a free concert?
Not only was it free, Midwest Dick, but Julian Casablancas is the founder of the Strokes, and he's anti-business, anti-money, anti all that stuff. But again, another stroke of the computer will tell you that Julian Casablancas' father is Jean Casablancas, who owns one of the largest modeling agencies in the world. His mother's some like Denmark model. They're multi-hundred millions of dollars. And, he's fighting against all of that. I'm sure, when the refrigerator runs low, it's, Daddy, can you send some food to which house, on the one in Malibu or the one in Italy or the one in New York? Oh, all of them, Daddy, please.
We'll be there.
Yeah. But anyway, in our pre-production meeting this morning, Midwest, myself, and J. Mark, we were thinking, looks like Bernie's gonna pull this thing out. It's
Right.
looking pretty
Right.
good. What happens if Bernie gets Loomered, but not from Loomer, but
Right.
if Bernie gets Hillaried?
Pilloried from Hillary.
Pilloried from Hillary. Remember 4 years ago, Bernie got pilloried by Hillary?
Yeah.
She totally screwed him. Her and the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, lost their job
Donna
over it.
Brazile, and all that stuff.
They cooked the books. They were going to have a brokered convention, do all these different little, underground smoke-filled room tactics to get that old crotchety guy out of there. Well, he's back, and he's bigger and stronger than ever. I'm back. What happens if he gets Hillaried again?
By Bloomberg. Let's say
Yeah.
he comes, because this super delegate thing is going to be huge. It's going to they've got 800 super delegates, and they're going to start voting. They're going to like, who the hell are these super delegates? And they're not going to vote for Bernie because they know that a socialist can never win the election. So they're going to do everything they can to burn Bernie, in Wisconsin.
Hey, Midwest Dick, you're a smart business guy. Bernie is 78, heart attack, refuses to reveal his current medical records. He was asked the other day, I revealed this, then I got to reveal that. It's never ending. It's never ending. You're not getting it,
That
right?
sounds like Larry David right there. That was excellent.
Poor Larry David,
He is the perfect Bernie Sanders, perfect Bernie Sanders.
It's 11:17 in the morning. Tom Trento with the crew here, J. Mark and Midwest Dick. Midwest Dick, he's 78. What do the insurance actuarials say? How long does does Bernie have? And I think Bloomberg's the same age.
Yeah.
How long does
Donald
Bloomberg
Trump, too.
have?
Donald Trump.
No,
too.
he's only 72, Donald. He's
He's like a
I
50,
think-
72.
I think from an actuary perspective, he and Mike are on borrowed time. they've passed the expiration date. The expiration date was a couple of years ago.
Can we still eat it? It's still good. Yeah.
Okay, well, here's the dig this then. If both Bernie and Bloomberg, B&B brothers, are on borrowed time, BB&B, if that's true,
The killer bees.
Bloomberg, the killer bees. Bloomberg has $60 billion.
Yeah.
He's used $300 million. He has $700 million to go before he uses 1/60th of his net worth. How bizarre is that? Every day with $60 billion in the bank at like 2 or 3% interest, you're making $30 million a day, some crazy number
He's
that.
already paid for his ads already.
Yeah, he's already paid for whatever he spent. That's how crazy the numbers are. Well, look, the guy knows he's going out, Bloomberg, and why not go out as president of the United States? Something he
Right.
hasn't done yet.
At least put my stamp on it.
So he Bloomberg's Bernie and uses his money to wipe out Bernie. Does anybody have any idea? Does anybody in the United States of America, does anybody anywhere have any idea what the Bernie bros
I do.
are gonna do? And if you're following our buddy James O'Keefe, he had spies inside Bernie's operation, and he caught several of these people several different times saying, we're burning it down. Now, Mark, you know a little bit about music.
Yeah.
What did the Strokes play last night in
Well,
their
they
concert?
played a cover of the Talking Heads song "Burning Down the House," which we actually featured.
Burning down, like burning
burning down the house. Yeah.
Okay, so they're saying Bernie is going to burn down the house of capitalism. Or
And
whatever.
we actually were saying that this type of reaction is going to happen with these radical leftist Marxists back in Ferguson, and they started doing it. And so we put the song. We predicted this way back when. So we put this song "Burning Down the House" on
Ferguson was the
Ferguson-
Ferguson riots was how long ago? 12 or
was it?
13 or something like
Yeah,
that. But so we're going to feature a video we made 4 or 5 years ago
with the music soundtrack.
with the soundtrack
that the
that was-
Strokes
that
that
the Strokes played last night. Now they played it to say Bernie's going to burn down the established house and capitalism.
Nah.
James O'Keefe said Bernie's guys are going to burn the streets.
of Wisconsin.
And we had a preliminary view of Milwaukee.
This is what's going to happen in Wisconsin.
And we're saying what took place in Ferguson, if Bernie gets Bloomberged and gets pushed out, Bernie's boys are going to do just what you saw here.
Right here. Here we go.
This is what community looks like.
You are in the streets, blocking the roadway. You are unlawfully assembled. You need to disperse immediately, or you will be subject to arrest. Do it now.
The McDonald's, the window was broken into again. We saw a couple other stores broken into and looted.
Tear gas has been thrown, water bottles we witnessed being thrown at police.
Tear gas.
Now, this is all
Tear
CNN
gas just
footage.
dropped right here, so it's going to get very bad here
All
if we don't have
CNN
masks. They're throwing it back.
But for the listening audience, you could hear it very clearly.
There's
It's a
a
riot
lot of
going on in
beanbags
Ferguson.
being shown and tear gas.
What you're looking at is the aftermath of the grand jury deciding not to indict Officer Wilson.
That's one police cruiser that is fully engulfed right now. And then if you just turn to your right, our photographer, Stike DeMoss, is going to get you to the other cruiser. That one is almost finished burning. It was mayhem. We saw these buildings catch on fire. This was a beauty supply store. And we watched it just burn to the ground. The auto zone is on fire. This is the third building within 2 blocks, and it is, destroyed. The building is basically collapsed. You can hear the explosions going on inside there from whatever is inside, whether it's... Sorry, I just got hit by a rock. I've been hit with much worse in my day. You're seeing the Tidal Max just up the street, right across, and that's another fire. And you're hearing the explosions from inside of some of those places.
Just to give you context, I don't want you to give you the sense that the entire city of Ferguson, that there's chaos, lots of areas are calm, people are inside, and that is really what we have been witnessing.
And to those members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better, or question the wisdom of me acting where Congress has failed, I have one answer.
It was 360 degrees of mayhem. Windows were smashed out. Just about every building, every business has sustained some damage. Just about everyone was burning in to some extent. Many were just entirely engulfed in flames. The fire department either feeling too much risk or were just simply overwhelmed by too many fires. Wasn't anywhere to be seen. A lot of gunfire out there.
All of us take offense to anyone who reaps the rewards of living in America without taking on the responsibilities of living in America.
Just smoke. But to see another building here now on fire, to look over to my left to see some others that have been looted.
Right now I'm standing out beside the McDonald's and people are throwing stuff at me right now. People are throwing stuff at me right now. It's that kind of scene out here right now.
Police still using tear gas, still moving through the area. It's heartbreaking. The Brown family, the governor, the president, all speaking about nonviolence and about peace.
Crazy situation, the city erupted. But our point today, and we're tying this to Bernie Sanders and back to James O'Keefe's undercover work, that if Bernie Sanders doesn't win, the people that are supporting him are going to go bonkers, and you're going to see this kind of stuff in the streets because they told us they're going to do that. And you could see he had 7,500 people there, with a group. This could be a very serious problem.
And these are the same people who support AOC. These are the same people who support Rashida Tlaib. These are the same people who support Bernie Sanders. Why? Because we've met these guys. We've seen them in the streets. These people scare me more than the jihadis do, because the jihadis are at least controllable by the mosque. These guys are not controllable, and they will go nutso in Wisconsin. I'd put $1 to $1 million on this.
The reason why we're saying Wisconsin is the Democrat National Convention is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in August. Now, why another reason why there'll be unrest? Because Bernie is promising a lot of free crap. Everything's
Right.
free. It's like he has, I don't know, how about this? Don't move that camera. I don't know, how about this? A money machine. Whoa. He has a money machine.
I'm in there.
How about that?
Wow.
Look, Monopoly money machine. That's what Bernie is promising to everybody. For those of you who are not watching, I have a Monopoly money machine that just shoots money out all over the place. I thought it was the dumbest toy I've ever seen, because now you got to go pick up all that stuff.
Yeah, Dick, you got to go pick up all that stuff.
Low man on the totem pole. Hold it.
I got to reload. Got to reload my Monopoly machine. But I am actually taking it to places where I speak, and I'm shooting the audience with it. So this is what the Democrats are promising. I was talking to a couple of kids the other day. Well, free, get rid of tuition. We don't have to do that anymore. And we need to have a show on this. But how many teachers do you know that if Bernie comes in and wants to get rid of tuition, and part of the way to pay for that is the teachers either get a pay cut or have to work for free? How's that going to work?
I know. It doesn't work. That's the whole point.
No. No, but the rich people will pay for everything in any event. All right.
And his new tax rate is going to be 100% on anybody over $1 million. Did you see that one the other day?
Yeah. So Bernie brings in the strokes to stroke up a little attention. We'll know tonight whether or not he wins, unless they have the Iowa app. If they have the Iowa app, we may have a problem here. So now, what time is it? Let me go to my magic clock, because I found it once again.
It's 12:28.
Yeah, but I want to see it on my magic digital clock.
11:28.
11:28. It's 12:28 somewhere, I guess, in the middle of the ocean. 11:28 in the morning. Tom Trento, WNN 1470. We know many of you cycle in and out in your automobiles because you have to get to work. So we tell you 2 or 3 times during the show, 1470 a.m. on your dial, 11 to 12, every single day, weekdays, or 95.3. You can go there too. What about that iHeartRadio? How do people do that?
WWNN put it in iHeartRadio, download app, and put in WWNN, and it's actually the best way to listen to the show.
Yeah, WWNN. Put in 1472 and get your 1470 also, not 1472. Somebody will do that. 1470 also, and you'll get to us on that. Or if you're in your home and you're locked inside WWNNradio.com, you go there, you'll see a picture. Hit listen now, and you're rocking and rolling with us. So today is Tuesday, the 11th, and I have on my list here stuff we wanted to bring to you. There's a local story that's going to be a national story, and that's our dear friend Laura Loomer.
All right.
I have Laura's Looming. Anybody have an update on Laura Loomer and her campaign?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, she's rocking and rolling. She's a number one fundraiser on the Republican side. She's out raising Lois Frankel, the Democrat candidate, and she's just, there's something else, Dick. What was it?
Well, just the fact that she's been banned on every platform.
Oh, right.
So the Democratic candidate, the other candidates have access to all this free social media platform. She's banned, and yet she is way ahead of all of her competitors on the Republican side. She's raised tremendous amount of money, and she's doing well. By the way, the other thing I did see is that the President of the United States is using the mailing list for Laura Loomer, showing Laura Loomer's banner and then his request for funding his campaign.
That's cool.
So Jim Jordan is doing the same thing. So the President and Jim Jordan are recognizing Laura Loomer at least as a fundraiser and possibly as a really important congresswoman.
Wow, that is really amazing. Now, truth be told, here at the United West, and folks, you're listening to Tom Trento. I direct theunitedwest.org. It's a educational organization, nonprofit. So we do humbly solicit your donations. If you can become a regular supporter, you can go to theunitedwest.org. Top left-hand corner, it says donate. But if you have a long O, donate, use a long line like that, you can go there and you have an option of $25. I think it even goes to $1,000 per month or whatever. Whatever you can do monthly, we appreciate it. We're donor-driven. And there are some of you out there that would like to write larger checks, 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever, thousands of dollars. You can contact me. There's a variety of ways of donating larger money. You don't want to go through the internet or your credit card number or whatever. And also we are hooked up with some banking institutions to receive stock as a donation. And for many of you who are in the 1% look, give us your money before Bernie steals all your money. Come on, do some good with it. Buried in the sand, do something. Don't let Bernie take it.
Make $1 million, he's going to take it all.
Yeah, exactly. So we're the United West, and we have 4 mission objectives. We defend the Constitution, defend the state of Israel, work to defeat Islam, the system, not necessarily fighting against nice Muslims. We fight against the bad Muslims that want to infiltrate and destroy the country.
Like Rashida.
But like Rashida. But it's based upon Islamic doctrine that we see when we read Islamic scholars. They tell us Islamic doctrine is incompatible. Can't coincide with the U.S. Constitution. So we go, wait, our first objective is defend the U.S. Constitution. Our third objective, defeat Islam. Why? Because Islam says you got to get rid of that Constitution. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? And the fourth objective is to defeat Karl Marx. The guy's dead 150 years, but he's making a return in the state of Florida and in the United States of America and in New Hampshire.
It's like the hand coming out of the grave.
Unbelievable.
Hands coming out of the grave.
What do these people need before they can conclude the system itself is flawed, not just the application of the system? So truth be told, Laura Loomer is a good friend of ours. Years ago, 5-6 years ago, whatever, we met her, and she started coming to Israel with us, and she liked the work that she was working for James O'Keefe and some other organizations. she liked the work that we were doing, very aggressive, cutting-edge work, confronting the enemy, going to the various places where the Marxists or the Islamic jihadis would cook up their little brew of poison in the public arena in the United States, and we bust into their parties legally, everything legally. So she wanted to be a little more out there, aggressive in her work. Who would have known she'd taken a little bit of stuff we do and put it on gigantic steroids and do some amazing
She's a
operations.
firecracker, man.
I'd like to see, no matter how it works out next year, I'd like to see the House of Representatives when Laura gets up to address the honorable woman from Minnesota, the honorable woman from Michigan, and how that goes. I think that's going to be worth the price of admission.
You put AOC and Rashida in a room together. Oh man, something's got to happen.
Oh, come on, please, Jesus. Please get Laura elected, please, just for that. But seriously, when she talked to us about a year ago, I guess, and says, I think I'm going to run for Congress. And we said, are you nuts? Are you nuts? You know, how are you going to do that?
She goes, yeah. I go, well, all right. And the more you think about it, you're like, okay, all right.
Well, we told her your life is going to be filleted.
Yeah.
Any and everything you've done that has any edginess anywhere that's online, like everything she's done, is going to be spread all over there.
We tried to talk her out of it.
Yeah, every creep in the world. It's like the work we do. People come up to us and say, man, your work is cool. I'd like to do it. And we say, great. If you can't do anything else, and you can only do, if there's anything else in the world you can do, go do it.
Right.
But if you can't, and we told her.
Because once you do this, you won't be able to do anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Because nobody else will hire you.
Right.
Well, it's indicative. It's indicative of a calling.
Yeah.
Because you know that you've been called to do it, but then you become unhireable. You really do. I couldn't get a job anywhere if my life depended on it.
Yeah.
And Laura's 26.
I know.
She's going to have a hard time getting a job anywhere. But
I hope she gets elected.
if she doesn't, I think eventually she will, because she was the valedictorian at Barry University, a Catholic woman. She's a Jewish woman. She went to a Catholic university, a very prestigious private school in Miami, and became the valedictorian, the top student, about to deliver the speech. But she was very upset that on 4th of July or something, or 9/11, the school featured a moderate Muslim who she found out was really not a moderate Muslim. So she complained and wound up starting on campus a support group for ISIS, for the Islamic State. She went in and undercover taped an advisor, one of the teachers, granting her permission to send ISIS. They need night goggle visions. They need water supplies, and not guns, or I'm not going to do anything like that, but just the stuff to keep them comfortable.
Blankets and
they're really misunderstood.
Moral support.
Their Islamophobes are misexplaining who they are. She talked the school into starting a support group for the Islamic State, and then when she publicized this on the internet, she got thrown out of school, basically.
Well,
and they let her graduate, but they would not let her go to her graduation ceremony.
And they would not give her officially the valedictorian.
No, they pulled that on her. Yeah. So, and that was 6 or 7 years ago. And she has hung tough through all these years. So she's raising money. The article, there's many articles now that are saying all of these politicians that were backing away from her as a nutcase are starting to say, wait a minute. She doesn't even have a Twitter account or Facebook. She's got a massive following of people. She's got the president, Janine Pirro, people saying, hey, you got to take a look at this person, because once you get past the exterior toughness, which is necessary in Washington, there's a very intelligent woman there, an extremely intelligent woman. And I'm sad for Lois Frankel in a debate.
Oh, yeah.
Laura is going to rip her to shreds. That's simple.
Well, the best thing, she shouldn't debate her at all. I mean, if I was Lois, I wouldn't debate her, and that's probably what she's going to do. She's just going to ignore, to her own detriment, because ignoring Laura and the ground well support she has is going to.
Well, if she becomes the nominee, Laura, then Lois will. There's at least, I think, 2 or 3 required debates between the two that the parties put on. But let's say, and this is last year, was it last year or 4 years ago, nobody ran against Lois Frankel?
She wasn't even on the ballot. I couldn't even put a writing candidate.
Yeah, I think that was 2 years ago. Lois Frankel is a Jewish icon. She's a Jewish woman. She plays her Jewishness to the older Jewish folks in Palm Beach. She gets reelected every time by 20, 30 points. But now she's got a Jewish woman who's a Zionist Jewish woman running against her. And look, if Laura doesn't make it, there's several other very decent, very good people. We had one of them in here, Mike Velarde, great guy. And
whoever makes it to the Republican side, we're going to vote for
if he gets in, I'm going to support him. That's for sure. I think all of us will. Good guy. At least we'll have a race this time. But for the mere fun factor, Laura Loomer will bring a lot of fun to Washington, D.C.
Well, I think she's a model for other candidates. You can't be a milquetoast in this election. You have to speak your mind. I think people are cowards, and Laura Loomer is a courageous warrior. So if nothing else, she's a model for other people.
And she's using the Donald Trump model, just slash and burn.
Yeah, and she has a great team. She's really assembled a very, very good team. And one of her early supporters, one of Laura Loomer's early supporters, 11:40 in the morning, 11 o'clock plus 40 minutes after or 20 minutes of, however you prefer.
Or till.
You're here on the East Coast with Tom Trento, J. Mark, and Midwest Dick. We're broadcasting from our studios somewhere hidden in the bowels of South Florida. And we're on a 50,000-watt stick, so we go from South Florida to North Palm Beach on the terrestrial side, which means you can pick it up on your what's that big thing? Boom box. You can walk down the beach on the boom box listening to us.
You're so 1980s.
That's the only way to fly. I know. Now there's
now you get your Bluetooth headset.
You got a little thing this big in your ear.
You see Tom walking on the boardwalk in Jersey with a boom box.
Yeah, there you go. Now you got this little dot in your ear. You can talk to the pilots as they're flying by, or you can play In the Still of the Night, which is one of my favorite songs. But one of Laura Loomer, who's running in the 21st District, Congressional District in Palm Beach, actually Laura will become the congresswoman for the GOP father for Donald Trump. One of her early supporters was another guy who's a little bit unorthodox by the name of?
Who?
Dove?
By the name of another
Dove?
unorthodox guy.
Dove?
If you look at the script, look at the script.
Dove?
Oh, you're talking about
look at the script.
Roger
Stone.
Roger
Stone is a very close friend of Laura's, one of the early supporters, probably the day she mentioned. And we have met Roger Stone at different events. He spoke in Danita had him. She died in 2016, our friend.
Yeah, we've met Roger a couple times.
2015, 16. He lives in Fort Lauderdale, and he may be living in a federal penitentiary for the next 7 to 9 years. That was the sentence handed down yesterday.
Oh, it was a sentence? I thought it was just a recommendation.
No, well, it's the recommended sentence. He got found guilty, and then the court does all their research. He was found guilty months ago of, I think, 3 or 4 counts. And then based upon all the various factors, they rank you in a number system. He's number 29, which is 80-something to 100-something months. So it's 7 to 9 years is what it comes to. And the president's very upset. Now, Roger Stone has been a longtime friend of Donald Trump.
He'll pardon you.
Though Donald fired him, they had a falling out at the beginning of his campaign in 2016. And even people that aren't friends of Roger Stone but are civil libertarians, they're going, this is a little overboard. Now, the guy, he lied to Congress. He threatened a witness who was his friend. And his friend says, I didn't really take the threat seriously. And he just didn't want to say anything that was going on, but you can't do that to Congress when they subpoena you. And the court gave him a million different chances, and he tried to be like a mobster. I mean, I just read the charging papers. He's using sentences from The Godfather. You know,
Literally
talking to other witnesses, telling them, do what Frank Pagaletti. Remember what he did? And then the FBI goes on. Frank Pagaletti was a gangster who said, "I take the fifth. I know nothing." And at one time, Roger tells one of the guys, "Do a Nixon. You got to do a Nixon. Everything for the team. Don't give up the team." And the stuff that he was trying to hide was nothing that large and ridiculous. He got caught up.
This is like the Nixon Watergate thing. The crime is in the cover-up and the line.
This
everything.
crime was in the cover-up, much bigger than if he would have said, "No, I really didn't have a contact with Julian Assange." He was trying to be like, me and Assange, and I got key men, and I'm going to get the information that's going to take Hillary down, and he's trying to build himself up as the key guy to take Hillary down, when in fact that wasn't the case. He was involved to some degree with getting some of those emails out, but several degrees removed. In any event, he got sentenced. Probably the sentence is going to be reduced, and probably he'll spend 6 months in jail and get pardoned, something like that. But hopefully Roger learns his lesson.
No.
Yeah, I know.
No.
When you're sitting before a subpoenaed U.S. Congress and being interviewed by the FBI, and you lie to them, it's very, very serious. You can take the fifth. You can do that all day long. They keep looking. A lot of people think if you lie to them, then that's going to end. No, not really.
But they did unfairly prosecute him, though. They really did. I mean, they're
not unfairly. I mean, he lied. He lied, and it's fair to
really
to go
come on,
after
like
him.
Joe Biden. Seriously, Joe and Hunter Biden.
well,
come on,
no,
comparatively speaking, there's
but
two different systems of justice in this country. There's one for the Democrats and one for the Republicans.
Yeah, but
everyone knows it.
But that argument is, two cars go flying by at 90 miles an hour, and the cops pull over one, and you go, "Why don't you pull over the other one?" Well, it's none of your business.
One goes by at 90 miles an hour every day, and this one goes across at 60 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone.
Doesn't matter. You broke the law.
The 60-mile-an-hour one gets pulled over. This guy's going 90 every day.
Not your problem.
I'm just
you
saying,
follow the law.
All I'm saying is there's two different systems of justice, and everyone knows it.
And what the whispers are coming out of the Justice Department and other places is that there's going to be a crackdown, certainly on sanctuary cities. We know that, but there's going to be a crackdown on some of the Comey, Brennan, Strzok, Page.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll
believe it when I see it, Tom.
I agree with you.
60-70% there, but I'm just not. I've been sold this bill of goods.
If I shoot some money at you, will you?
Yeah, really.
All right, look, 47 minutes after the hour, and we want to show you a new way forward. Because the way we're going, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought we were going to Rashida.
Where's Rashida? Oh, she's right there. Why did I cross her out?
I don't know.
Rashida had a little run-in with your friend.
Yeah.
Rashida Tlaib.
Dove, yeah.
Dick, tell us a little bit about Rashida, because you know her intimately, I think.
Well, unfortunately, that's the case. So she represents a district in Michigan, although she does say that she represents the Palestinians. So she's much more interested in the Palestinian cause than she is in the poor people who live in really a crap situation in her own district. She's very passionate. She loses her temper. She's extremely...
Impeach the MFer.
She hates Jews. Let's just lay it on the line.
She's very anti-Semitic. Very anti-Semitic.
And Midwest Dick is from the Midwest, and he happens to be from the area where Rashida became a congresswoman. And there was an event last night, Muslims who
for
love
peace.
everybody.
Muslims for peace.
For peace. Muslims for peace. And Mark, your buddy, Dove Hyken.
Dove,
D-O-V. Dove. How'd you meet him?
Oh, we were at the Republican Judeo-Christian Republican Club.
That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful.
And he was speaking up there. He's a Democrat, actually. He's a longtime Democrat, state assemblyman.
New York State Assemblyman, yep.
For 30 years, and is a supporter of Trump and a supporter of Israel. And he looks at Rashida Tlaib and going, listen, this girl is deadly to the Democrat Party. It's what he's going after her about. As a Democrat, he says, you're letting all this, radical anti-Semitic hatred into the Democrat Party. And Rashida Tlaib, AOC, and Ilhan, are just the tip of the iceberg. He goes, it's in, so deep inside the Democrat Party is that it's destroying us from within, the anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and it was at Rutgers, I guess, last night, Rutgers, New Jersey, where I'm from, and she gets up and about to speak on Muslims and peace and all that nonsense, and Dove, your buddy, has a little run-in, and somebody caught it on video. Take a look at this now.
It's a little hard to understand, but we'll explain it to you.
Yeah, when
so Rashida's standing at the podium. She's speaking her normal blah, 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 blah garbage, and Dove stands up and starts making a statement about her anti-Semitism. Ready?
Here we go.
Others, show up for others. And I can tell you.
What about your... Yeah, you can leave.
No.
What about your anti-Semitism?
She's a racist. That's how the Muslims start shouting out.
And Dove hiking gets thrown out. Yeah, the background for that, about a month or so ago, a young Palestinian kid was found in Israel in a lake, a little stream, dead, and immediately the Palestinians say the Jewish settlers killed this kid. She starts tweeting out, crazy Jews kill 7-year-old kid, and it went all over the place. I mean, she has 900,000 followers, and she's spreading out that the Jews killed this 7-year-old kid, and Muslims all over the world are starting to get upset. And the fact of the matter is the kid had gone out from his house, got lost or something, fell in, and it was a natural death. The family even had to say, nobody killed the kid. They had to quiet it down. It was a complete lie.
Well, she does
so
everything.
all Dove was doing was saying, how come you haven't corrected that, Rashida? And he went there to say, how come you haven't corrected it? And all the Muslims and the cops dragged him out.
And you can hear all the Muslims in the background. It's totally, I tell you what, with hardcore Islamic followers who follow the doctrine of Islam, it is completely anti-Semitic, completely anti-Israel, completely anti-Jewish. And Rashida and Ilhan are just products of that mindset.
And they're super supportive of Bernie Sanders. So
Yes.
they travel to Bernie's events. Rashida, Ilhan, Linda Sarsour, AOC are on the site supporting Bernie.
There's absolutely no doubt in anyone's mind that these two people are anti-Semites, complete anti-Semites. Even out of this is what's joining with the Democrat Party. And this is what Dove is trying to say. Being a lifelong 30-year state assemblyman for New York, he's saying, listen, wake up, McFly, hello, smell the roses. These guys want to put you in death camps.
And you're killing our party. You're killing our, along the lines of killing the party, here's another thing for our dear Democrat friends to consider, particularly down in South Florida at 1151. Tom Trento, your host, WNN Radio, 1470 AM, 95.3. We have a lot of Democrat legislators at various levels, 6 million people in South Florida, many of whom are Latin, and many of whom have come from either Venezuela, Cuba, other socialist countries. They are wearing their heads off if Bernie Sanders gets elected as a declared socialist / communist.
Exactly.
How the heck are they going to support a guy that wants to bring America into the direction that they escaped from?
I know.
How do they support something like that as Latino Democrats in South Florida? Think about that.
And the crazy legislation.
But as we show you this way forward, which is really a way backward, one of the sponsors, one of the main sponsors, Chu Garcia. I want to put this little tidbit together. We'll develop it more in the days to come. In a rally with Garcia, Bernie Sanders comes to town. This was back when he was running in Chicago, Garcia. He was going to run for mayor. And the mega wealthy, far left San Francisco lawyer by the name of, guess what, Mark? Steve Phillips.
Oh, Steve Phillips.
endorsed and funded Garcia
I did not know this.
through Power PAC to become the mayor of Chicago. Well, he lost, and then a seat opened up for him to become the congressman from that district in Chicago, and Chu Garcia did, and Chu Garcia is now the author, funded by Steve Phillips of The New Way Forward.
I did not know this.
Well,
Unbelievable.
that's another reason for the...
And let's play a little clip while we had last time.
All right, check this out.
Really quick.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Last night on this show, we told you about what may be the single most extreme and disruptive piece of legislation ever to gain widespread support in the Congress in the history of this country. It's called the New Way Forward Act. It's before Congress right now and has been for almost 2 months. And yet so far it has been essentially ignored by the country's major media outlets, which are either too embarrassed of it or too ignorant to cover it. That's a disservice to you because it's nearly impossible to describe just how radical this bill is. If passed, it would remake our immigration system for the express purpose of helping foreign-born criminals live here. The bill would allow people who've committed serious felonies in other countries to move to the United States legally. It would make it nearly impossible for federal immigration officials to detain immigrants, no matter how potentially dangerous they are. And, perhaps most infuriatingly and remarkably, it would require taxpayers to transport deported criminals back into the United States. In other words, you break our laws, you hurt our people, we'll send you a plane ticket. We'll pay for you to come back. It's utter and total insanity. And yet it's very popular in the Democratic Party. So far, this bill has 44 Democratic co-sponsors. On the screen is a list of some of their names. Some of these people you've heard of before. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. They're celebrities, but some are obscure. Earl Blumenauer, for example, has represented Oregon for decades. Before this, he's maybe been best known for running the Congressional Bicycle Caucus. And yet, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Blumenauer has decided to wreck the country. Now, we'd like to talk to Earl Blumenauer on this show. We'd like to hear why he supports this bill. We'd like to talk to any of the people who've co-sponsored it. We reached out to many of them today to come on and defend their views. But not one of them agreed to come. Why? Because they're cowards. And yet we think you ought to know what they're doing. Here's the bill's primary sponsor, Jesus Garcia of Illinois, after introducing the bill. Garcia said this.
This is not a radical project. We are simply asking for a fair shot and the opportunity for immigrants to stay in the country they call home. A New Way Forward does just that. It would end mandatory immigration detention, end the automatic pipeline to deportation through the criminal justice system. It would end deportation for people who have had contact with the criminal legal system. It would end the practices of local police engaging in immigration enforcement and the increased ever-policing of communities of color. It would decriminalize immigration.
This is not a radical project. Of course, the opposite is true. The bill is completely radical. It would transform America into a place you don't recognize. Many of the sponsors of this bill come from the fringes of the Democratic Party, as you would expect, but not all of them do. Consider Congressman Andy Levin. Levin represents the suburbs north of Detroit. Levin's district leans blue, but it's still essentially bipartisan. Voters there went for Hillary Clinton, for example, by just 8 points. So there's no chance a majority of Andy Levin's voters want to send plane tickets to armed robbers in Guatemala so they can move next door. And in fact, nobody wants that, no matter what they claim on Twitter. Yet Levin is trying to do that right now. And that's what's scary about this bill. It's happening in the dark. No one's talking about it. Those who are dismiss it as unlikely. It'll never happen. And that's a mistake. Things change fast in modern America. On issue after issue, from ending the Second Amendment to banning biological gender to the open and aggressive racism of identity politics, yesterday's extremism has become today's Democratic Party platform. That's how it works now. 4 years ago, when Bernie Sanders mounted his first campaign for president, Vox.com pressed him on why he didn't back open borders for the world. Sanders responded this way, quote, "No, that's a Koch brothers proposal, which says essentially there is no United States. It would make everybody in America poorer," end quote. Of course, Sanders was entirely right, and for that crime, he was savaged by Vox and all the other angry children in wokedom. Resisting the abolition of the United States was, in their view, needless to say, proof that Sanders was a hardened bigot, a racist. 4 years later, Sanders has become obedient. His new platform contains all the usual open borders rhetoric, ending all deportations, abolishing ICE, giving a blanket amnesty to all illegal aliens in the country. Now, a New Hampshire voter recently asked Sanders why his views had changed so radically. The man who once called lax immigration enforcement a Koch brothers conspiracy just 4 years ago suddenly sounded very much like a Koch brother himself.
We have 11 million undocumented here. Many of those workers, by the way, are being exploited right now. You know, Trump wants to throw everybody out of the country. If he threw out people out of the country, the price of food in this country would skyrocket. Who do you think is picking the crops and planting all over this country?
Who's picking the crops? Actually, machines are picking most of the crops in this country now and planting them too. Bernie's almost 80 years old, and apparently nobody told him that. But either way, it is still shocking to hear that explanation from a self-described socialist. So yes, workers are being exploited, but think about what avocados would cost if citizens had to pick them. It's nauseating. Now, Sanders isn't stupid. He has to know his party's turn on immigration hurts workers and the country, but he desperately wants to be president of the United States. So he goes along with it. You're seeing quite a bit of this, by the way. Joe Biden, who's supposedly the most moderate man in politics, old Uncle Joe, now is pushing for illegal aliens to get off on DUIs. Watch.
You only arrest for the purpose of dealing with a felony that's committed, and I don't count drunk driving as a felony.
The confused ravings of a fading old man? No, hardly. They all think that way now. If Democrats win the 2020 election, some version of the New Way Forward Act will likely become law. Once again, keep this in mind. Things move fast in this country.
This thing is just insane, Tom. This whole thing is insane.
Well, I read through the bill, and first of all, there's 44, and we're really going to develop this in the days ahead because this is classic Marxism.
Right.
There's 44 sponsors, which is frightening, absolutely frightening.
And Rashida and AOC.
What is it? 250 Democrats, 25%,
1/5.
1/5, 20% of the Democrats have sponsored this, and that isn't even with a whip trying to get more sponsors.
No.
But it's insane when you read through the bill itself. Not only does it say if a former cartel killer in Mexico who has seen the light, now he feels threatened, right? All he has to do is feel threatened, and he wants to come to America. The United States government has an obligation to fly him in,
right,
because he's fearful of where he is, and we have to reach out for him, bring him here, house, feed, and provide health care for him as we reorient or resettle him into here, because we're one big global community. Now, for someone who may have gotten arrested, and this law requires that a series of criteria are considered before setting bond. And if you're obviously poor, you can't have any bond. If you're homosexual, you can't have any bond. If you're a Muslim, you can't have any bond.
If you can't speak English.
If you can't speak English, you don't have a bond. And you look at this, you go, how does this work? How does this work?
This has more rights than American citizens does. It really does. There's not one American citizen that go out there and kill somebody and say, oh, go ahead, come back in if you want to. We're not going to put you in jail.
It's social reparations. It's basically saying the United States stole Mexico, the United States stole Texas, stole everything, and all the Latino, Spanish people, now they got to get their due. and it's time to start
It is
paying
the
them off.
craziest bill ever in the history of Congress ever attempted to be legislated. And not saying it's ever going to pass, but this is what's coming down the pike if Bernie Sanders.
Well, you know, 30 years ago when I was running around yelling and screaming that we have a culture in crisis, there were things that in meetings like this, shows like this, I'd say this will never pass, and now it's law. Now it's law.
I used to think there would always be no way about marriage between a man and a woman. I thought that would be never will we ever like. Oh my!
Never
God.
in the United States, and it's passed. But the bottom line is, you get enough people to vote for it, and they win. Which is why November 3rd, 266 days from today, is so critical. Look, my shirt, Make America Think Again. That's why we're here. We want to stimulate your thinking, ladies and gentlemen. That's what the show's all about. We have tomorrow Willie Guardiola, who's a pro-Trump, pro-life activist. He'll be live in studio. Have a wonderful Tuesday. We'll catch you on Wednesday. Remember, one team, one fight. Keep the faith.